The Avon Tyres Intermarque silhouettes were ready for their final round of the season at Brands Hatch on Sunday the 14th of November. There was a good turnout of 19 cars, but we were unfortunately missing Richard Smith, who suffered a nasty accident a few days earlier whilst driving a tractor. Everyone at the club is wishing him a speedy recovery ahead of the 2022 season. Qualifying saw Danny Hunn adapt to the slippery conditions the best. His Scrapco Ford Fiesta had its wet tyres on, that certainly helped, as did Pat Keeley, both of them taking the fastest times in qualifying. A few seconds further back would be Malcolm Blackman, but he was on his slick tyre, so third overall was pretty impressive. Steve Burrows would be fourth in his Tigra, followed by the impressive Tom Hutchins, driving the Ricky Hunn Jr. Mazda RX-8 from earlier on in the season. Dave York would be next up, and Chris Ayling was leading the senior category. Lewis Smith was a little bit disappointed with 8th position, whilst Philip Young was 9th. Rounding out the top 10 was John Stewart, who had claimed an impressive podium position earlier in the year at Silverstone when the conditions had got a bit wet. We were also missing Mike Thurley from the last round of the season. He had tested positive for COVID. The club also sends its regard to him ahead of the 2022 season. The first race was held on a slightly drier track, but it was a slight lottery about who would be quick in these conditions. There was also a big decision ahead of this race: wet or dry tyres. Both Danny Hunn and Keeley stayed on their wet tyres, whilst Blackman went slicks on one side and wets on the other, whilst Burrows opted for slicks all round. Who had made the right tyre choice?
The left is the Ford, on the right is the Tigra, who'll get the jump into Paddock Hill Bend. It looks like the Tigra gets his nose ahead, but they're pretty level. They're going to go 4 wide, are they? No, surely not. Malcolm Blackman in the red Tigra tried to go to the inside and sensibly backed out of it. Side by side through the first turn then. They're still side by side as they come out of Paddock Hill Bend. The Corrado there at the back of the field of Mick Robertson having lost some places, but it still looks like a side by side rolling start, even as they arrive at the second turn at Druids. No one really managing to pull clear. Now finally the pole sitter Danny Hunn holds the advantage, but at the inside of him goes Pat Keeley into Graham Hill Bend. They're side by side, bit of rubbing as they come off the corner, and once again they are level heading down the Cooper Straight. Bit sideways there for the 175, that's John Stewart. Finally we have a lead change, and in fact that is which of the Tigras is that? What's happened to Pat Keeley then? Because Pat Keeley seems to have vanished. It's the 91 of Blackman that's got the lead. Hunn is second and Keeley is still there, but down in third. So Keeley, who was challenging for the lead through the first half of the lap, actually will end it in third position. A couple of cars getting sideways further back, but it is the red and white Tigra of Malcolm Blackman that leads the first lap of the day.
So Blackman had took the lead early on, with Hunn hanging right behind him in second position and Keeley not far back in third. The leading two would have an immense battle throughout the first race of the day, the gap being no more than 2 seconds throughout the race. Malcolm used his immense experience in these conditions and held the middle line, whilst Danny was looking for a gap around the outside and on the inside, but unfortunately for him it would never quite work out.
So there they go, the yellow and red Ford chasing after the red Tigra. Then it's Pat Keeley third, fourth place the silver Tigra there of Dave York, fifth is the white Mercedes of Lewis Smith, and sixth for Ray Harris in the sort of teal Ginetta. So well, he's going to be fifth now, because off goes Lewis Smith into the gravel trap. So I was about to say he was starting to apply some pressure to the Mercedes. The pressure has told, hasn't it? Because the Mercedes has beached itself in the gravel up at Clearways Corner, and that could be a dangerous enough position to lead to a safety car here. The marshals are scrambling to go and help him out. Lewis is climbing out of the car. He knows he's going to dig his way out of there in a hurry.
On lap number 6 there was a safety car as Lewis Smith had spun his Mercedes and got beached at Surtees. The action restarted on lap number 9 as the safety car withdrew and went into the pit lane. York was holding on with 4th position, just ahead of Ray Harris and the slickshod Steve Burrows. Behind them there was more great battling. Danny and Colin Smith were pursued by Young. The three out front were circulating at a very even pace, but attention would quickly move to Burrows, who'd found his slick tyres were suddenly switching on towards the end of the race. He had passed Harris and, despite setting the fastest lap of the race, could not quite catch York.
So not the best restart in the world, that from Malcolm Blackman, but he's still away slightly quicker than Hunn behind him, and they both really pulled a gap on the rest of the field. There's a side-by-side battle already for 50. Can't overtake before the start-finish line, though, and that means that Steve Burrows has to lift off the throttle slightly. He's allowed to overlap with the Ginetta of Ray Harris. He just can't beat it to the line, which he didn't. He managed to back off by a tenth or so, did Burrows managed to get himself ahead of the Ginetta? The answer is yes, he's up the inside at Druids. The Ginetta tries to fight back on the outside line, but the Ginetta will slip down into 6th position. So these two who've been toing and throwing all race really have swapped over again already straight after the restart. Down into Graham Hill Bend, the leaders pretty close. They're pairing off a bit, aren't they really? 2 for first, 2 for third, and then side by side again for 5th as Ray Harris now comes back at Steve Burrows along the Cooper Straight. He's on the inside into Surtees. That's never going to work though. Now the gold Tigra of Danny Smith tries to find some traction around the outside, but he can't quite buy himself a ticket to the inside line into Clearways. Out of the final corner, and it's side by side for the race lead because Danny Hood has found the grippier side of the road. He goes right around the outside of Malcolm Blackman. They're wheel to wheel, but the Tigra just seems to have a slight edge in a straight line. It's a much smaller body kit on that Tigra, and aerodynamically speaking, that should help it in a straight line. The Ford might be a bit more stable, a bit more grippy through the corners, but there's a lot more drag down that pit straight, and it meant that even though Hun was so much quicker off the final corner than Blackman, he couldn't quite beat him to the line. Side by side there for third as well, the grey Tigra of Dave York trying to get to the outside of Pat Keeley, couldn't quite do it through the right-hander. They're both being caught now by Steve Burrows in that dark blue and grey Tigra, but the leaders couldn't be a lot closer now as they go down the bottom straight and into Surtees. Just a couple of corners still to go. Then the checkered flag will be waiting to greet them at the end of this lap, and this is where Hun was quick a lap ago. He's going to try and do the same thing again. He sends it to the outside. There is more grip on the outside in the wet than there is on the inside, but then he sells the dummy, gets back to the inside of the Tigra. They're side by side off the final corner, but the Tigra should have the straight line speed advantage. I reckon he's going to beat the Fiesta to the line by maybe a car length or so. Malcolm Blackman agrees with me because he's already celebrating long before he takes the checkered flag. He finally does, and Blackman wins with actually Danny Hun very nearly losing 2nd place even on the line there to Pat Keeley and Dave York. Those three separated by only a couple of tenths of a second.
Behind them there was a battle between Danny Smith and Ray Harris. The two were switching positions multiple times, but on the final lap it'd be Ray Harris crossing the line in 6th position. Behind those two, it would be Colin Smith in 8th position, just ahead of Phil Spinks. He would also take the senior class victory. Nigel Beardsmore was up next, a good run to get a top 10 with his Mercedes. He was followed by Mick Robertson, then Young, then Mr. Cheese, then they were followed by Warren Ferrazmand, then a subdued Ruben Taylor, John Price, John Stewart and Chris Ayling, finishing up the order.
Malcolm, just before you go there, my words, that was quite entertaining for us, wasn't it? Did you think he might have had you right at the end there?
No, to be honest, we had so much drive down here to the home, so it didn't even matter if he was in front of me coming out of there, because on the slicks, on the dry line, it's completely two different sides, so yeah.
I was going to say, coming around Clearways, a lot of the time, a lot of cars were twitching about, and you were as well quite a bit up there. What was it like?
It's different. Some were on wets, like Danny was on wet, so that part of the track he's really fast, this part of the track he really struggles.
Yeah.
So that's all the difference. It isn't a pace difference or driving better in them corners. We're just different pick of choice of tyres.
You know, I have a habit of talking to you in Park Ferme, don't I, in the winners' row? Congratulations anyway, Malcolm. Let's go grab a quick word with Dan as well. Just not quite enough power on the straights, was it?
Yeah, I think the certain parts of the track was sort of drying really, and Malcolm had the edge, and then through this back section here, like through Surtees and McLaren and Clearways, I had the edge.
You took the wider line, didn't you, up Clearways?
I was on wet. I think Malcolm was probably he's on wet as well. And I tell you, much a bit of line through Clearways, but listen, I enjoyed it in the day. It was
great to watch.
I'm not running for anything, it's just a bit of fun that was to me, so I enjoyed it.
You go with a nice trophy, and of course you've got to do it all again later as well. Well done, cheers. Pat, there you go. You were kind of by yourself a little bit there, weren't you? A little bit.
I couldn't get any drive up the top of Clearways. It was just wheel spinning the whole way down. It was like changing up, and it was just completely.
Did you just say first podium? Did you just say
first podium?
First podium. What a way to do it as well, because not under too much pressure, but you just never know what goes ahead when they're battling in front, do you?
No, with them two as well. I nearly got him over the line, over the start-finish line, but that's good. Happy
big smile. Congratulations, buddy. Well done. Got to do it all again later. Back-to-back podiums, please. There you go.
For race number 2, we saw the top 7 finishers reversed. Danny Smith was on the pole, but he would get a 10-second penalty for a false start. This would be a huge shame. He would drive a fantastic race, finishing 5th place on the road, but the penalty would eventually drop him down to 7th.
It's a bit of a messy start, this, isn't it, really? Smith's going to arrive at the start-finish line a lot earlier than he should. That was very messy indeed. I wonder if we might get some penalties for that. Anyway, the race gets underway, and in the end, Smith will get to Paddock Hill Bend with the lead, not by a huge margin anyway, so probably didn't really gain much from that. Squirms his way down through the dip there, bit of standing water at the bottom of the hill at Paddock Hill Bend, but it is going to be Danny Smith that leads the way, but on the inside of everybody there was that Steve Burrows? I think it was, in the third place Vauxhall Tigra. He certainly gets second, and yes, the number 16 car is now challenging for the race lead. Steve Burrows to the outside into Graham Hill Bend, and he will go through into first position. So from third on the grid to first goes Steve Burrows. Sideways and around goes the 491. Big spin in the middle of the pack. Thankfully not connected by anyone. That was Colin Smith going around, and he'll select first gear and carry on pretty much at the very back of the field. So Burrows leads the way, sideways there for the Ford of Danny Hunn, that came up just short of the victory in race number 1. I noticed he was side by side again with Malcolm Blackman, as he was for much of the race earlier on this morning. Side by side now for third position. The Ginetta of Ray Harris is just struggling, isn't it, this weekend? Doesn't seem to have the raw speed that we've seen from it in the past, and on the inside of him now goes the 196 of Dave York. Dave York going for third place into Paddock Hill Bend. Now that normally would be the place to be, but in the wet sometimes you can carry more speed around the high, wide and handsome line, and indeed that's exactly what the Ginetta does. It holds on to that third place for now. They're being caught by Malcolm Blackman in the red Tigra. They're all sort of concertinaing together there on the apex of Druids Corner. This is all happening though now over 2 seconds adrift of the race leader Steve Burrows, who's absolutely checked out from this lot. It is still going to be Danny Smith in second, side by side for third, bit of a rub on the exit of the corner, and over the curb the 196 of Dave York gets sideways, so Ray Harris comes back at him now on the inside into Surtees Corner, and now the Ford look of Danny Hunn is ahead of Malcolm Blackman, so the yellow and red Ford Fiesta is up a position into 5th place now.
Meanwhile, Burrows had immediately gone into the lead of the race and started to pull clear of York in second, driving very well in his grey Tigra. Series leader Ray Harris was initially in third position, but the Ginetta driver seemed to struggle in the early stages of the race and had slipped back. And by lap number 5 it would be Blackman up into third place, just ahead of Hunn. Yet again their battle would go all the way to the checkered flag, this time for third though, not for the overall win.
And look at this, Blackman and Hunn are side by side again. Blackman sideways on the outside line at Clark Curve. As soon as the track straightens up, that's when the Ford will struggle, and so the Tigra manages to go through. So Blackman into third, Hunn fourth, Danny Smith down to 5th position. The leader, don't forget about him, is Steve Burrows. He is 6.9 seconds up the road and continuing to lap quite a bit quicker than anybody else. He was 4 tenths faster than Dave York in second place on that last lap. And as this battle behind continues, they're not likely to catch him really, are they? Steve Burrows dominating this. That start was crucial, wasn't it? Coming from third on the grid to lead by the end of the opening lap, and hasn't really looked back since.
Just outside the podium positions, it looked like Ray Harris was going to hold on to 5th position after a tricky weekend, but the last few laps of the race would see Lewis Smith, who was flying through from the back of the grid, get past him up into that 5th position spot, also taking the fastest lap of the race. This impressive drive would see him earn the Driver of the Race award.
I think the positions at the head of the field are pretty set. This one isn't though. Lewis Smith on the inside of Ray Harris. Look at the way the front splitter was bouncing around on that Mercedes from his trip through the gravel trap. And of course it will have possibly sustained damage when he went off in race 1 as well and got beached in the gravel at Clearways. It didn't slow down though. He's gone through, slides the Mercedes into Druids Corner, and Ray Harris drops down to 7th place. Disappointing way to round out the season for Ray Harris, but neither he or Malcolm Blackman are going to get to 6 race victories this year, because the final race of the season for the Avon Tide Intermarque Silhouette Series will go the way of this man. Steve Burrows has led every single lap of the race, having started third. He got to the lead before the end of lap 1 and has never looked back. He's been able to back the pace off considerably in the final few laps, and he will still come home with a comfortable margin of victory. Steve Burrows wins then, and wins for the final time in 2021 in the Avon Tide Intermarque Silhouette. Second goes to Dave York, third Malcolm Blackman, fourth Danny Hunn. Those 3 actually covered by only 2 seconds at the flag.
Behind them it would be Danny Smith, classified 7th. Phil Spinks would be 8th overall and taking the senior honours. Just behind him would be Robertson, 2nd senior and 9th place overall, and Keeley rounding out the top 10. Young was next, claiming 11th position, pursued by Stewart just a second further behind. Tom Hutchins would finish in 13th position. Thankfully he could get some track time after missing out on the first race due to a clutch problem. Behind him, Ayling, Taylor, Foresmand and Price would complete the finishers, and the only retirements would be Colin Smith and Nigel Beardsmore.
You got the job done this time, well done. How does that feel?
Yeah, that's a nuts.
That's a nuts, I love that. Slightly different tyres, I see, but you just got away and you just held it then, didn't you? Clean air, nobody could touch you, really.
Got away, mate, and last few laps we backed up a bit just to try and keep it a bit safe. Yeah, great, brilliant, unbelievable.
Great way to finish the day, isn't it, for you? Fantastic. See, it means a lot. Well done, buddy. Let's go grab a quick word, actually. We'll grab a chat with Malcolm shortly. Let's go grab a quick chat with Dave York, who actually finished second place. Let's grab him. Dave, well done, buddy. How was that?
Yeah, it was good. Really good.
It looked like Steve just got away too much, just too much of a gap.
Yeah, I couldn't quite. I could see Malcolm in the mirror. I was just trying to keep the gap.
And as ever, of course, you've got to hold Malcolm Blackman back. It's never easy, is it?
No, definitely not. But it was all right. It was a good race.
Enjoyed it. You got a big smile on your face. What does it mean to get on a podium, finish the season on a high?
Brilliant, mate. Yeah, brilliant. I've had a good year. So,
fantastic. Well done. Fantastic stuff. Let's grab Malcolm again very quickly. He's always on the podium, isn't he, Malcolm? Steve, just too much this time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to slow them up these two and I. It's like, we look after both of these cars, me and my nephew, so they're all very, very similar.
Yeah.
So the three of them, but they went for new and I didn't. And I probably should have, but it's the end of the season, I weren't wasting tyres, so I'm happy with a third, that'll do me.
Fantastic, well done, great season, congratulations, mate. There we go, lovely.
Phil won the
and
seniors.
Phil, here we are, Phil, the seniors.
Elderly.
Is that what we're going to call it? Yeah. What's it been like racing this season, Phil?
Oh, it's been quite good. We've been getting faster and faster as the season's gone on, so we're happy where we are. So yeah, it's
good to get the class win as well, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah. Once you started to move up, you feel like you're getting somewhere at long last.
It was pretty treacherous out there, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
quite slippy.
There was a couple of moments where I thought I'd overdone it, but just about held on. So.
Fantastic. Well done. Congratulations. There we go.
A truly fantastic year for the Avon Tyres Intermarque Silhouettes. An impressive grid at all of the rounds this season, and they've been a fan favourite at every single event we've been to this year. We're looking forward to continue the success into 2022, where we'll see even more new venues enter the calendar, and also race on the American Speedfest bill once more. A huge thanks to the club for making this such a successful year. It's been thoroughly enjoyable to report on and also race myself in the TinTops series. A massive thank you to Lee Sutton as well. His race reports at the end of each round have been very important when putting together these videos. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. The award ceremony for 2021 will be early on in 2022 at Brands Hatch, so be sure to get that event booked into the diary. Thank you for watching, enjoy the off season, and we'll see you in 2022. Goodbye.